Book 5. Calypso and Odysseus, reaching Scheria on a raft. As dawn, with her rosy fingers, rose from her bed beside Tithonus, bringing light to both mortals and immortals, the gods gathered for a council. Among them sat Zeus, the lord of thunder and king of all gods. Then Athena began to speak of Odysseus's many trials, suffering far away in the nymph Calypso's home. She felt deep pity for him, so far from home. Athena spoke.
Father Zeus, and all you other gods who live in eternal happiness, I hope there will never again be a kind, good ruler, or a king who governs fairly. Let them all be cruel and unjust from now on. This is because not one of his people remembers Odysseus, who ruled them like a loving father. Now, Odysseus lies in terrible pain on the island where the nymph Calypso lives. She refuses to let him go. He cannot return to his homeland. He can find no ships or sailors to carry him across the sea. What's more, wicked men are now trying to murder his only son, Telemachus. Telemachus is on his way home from Pylos and Lacedaemon, where he went to seek news of his father.
Zeus replied to his daughter.
Athena, what are you talking about, my dear? Didn't you send him there yourself, thinking it would help Odysseus return home and punish the suitors? Besides, you are perfectly capable of protecting Telemachus and bringing him safely home. The suitors will have to flee in a panic without having killed him.
After speaking, Zeus turned to his son, Hermes.
Hermes, you are our messenger. Go tell Calypso that poor Odysseus must return home. This is our decree. He will have no escort, neither gods nor men. After a perilous 20-day voyage on a raft, he will reach fertile Scheria. That is the land of the Phaeacians, who are close to the gods. They will honor Odysseus as if he were one of us. They will send him home on a ship and give him more bronze, gold, and fine clothes than he would have brought back from Troy, even if he had returned safely with all his spoils. This is how we have decided he will return to his country and his friends.
As Zeus finished speaking, Hermes, the god's guide, guardian, and slayer of Argus, set off to obey. He immediately fastened on his glittering golden sandals. These sandals allowed Hermes to fly like the wind over land and sea. He took his wand, which could seal men's eyes in sleep or wake them at his will, and flew with it over Pieria. Soon, he swooped down through the sky until he reached the surface of the sea. He skimmed across the waves, like a cormorant hunting fish in every nook and cranny of the ocean, its thick feathers drenched in spray. He flew on and on over countless weary waves. Finally, he reached the island, his journey's end. He left the sea and traveled by land until he came to the cave where the nymph Calypso lived. Hermes found Calypso at home in her cave. A large fire blazed on the hearth, and the fragrant scent of burning cedar and sandalwood drifted far and wide. Calypso herself sat at her loom, weaving with a golden shuttle and singing a beautiful song. Around her cave grew a thick forest of alder, poplar, and sweet-smelling cypress trees. All sorts of large birds nested there, owls, hawks, and noisy sea crows busy by the water. A lush vine, heavy with grapes, grew abundantly around the cave's entrance. For small streams flowed through narrow channels, winding this way and that to waterbeds of violets and rich green grass. Even a god would be enchanted by such a lovely place. Hermes paused, taking in the scene. Only after he had admired it sufficiently did he step inside the cave. Calypso recognized Hermes at once, for gods always know each other, no matter how far apart they live. But Odysseus was not inside. As usual, he sat on the seashore, gazing at the desolate ocean with tear-filled eyes, groaning with a broken heart. Calypso offered Hermes a seat and spoke.
Hermes, honored and always welcome, why have you come to see me? You don't visit often. Tell me what you wish. If I can do it, and if it's possible, I will do it at once. But first, come inside and let me offer you some refreshment.
As she spoke, Calypso placed a table laden with ambrosia, the food of the immortals, beside Hermes and mixed him some red nectar. After Hermes had eaten and drunk his fill, he began to speak.
We are speaking as god and goddess, and you ask why I have come. I will tell you the truth, as you wish. Zeus sent me. It was not my own choice. Who would want to travel all this way across the sea, where there are no cities full of people to offer me sacrifices or grand offerings? But I had to come, for none of us gods can defy Zeus or disobey his commands. Zeus says that the man you hold here is the most unfortunate of all those who fought for 9 years before King Priam's city of Troy, then plundered it in the 10th year and sailed for home. On their way home, they sinned against the goddess Athena, who stirred up fierce winds and waves against them. All his brave companions perished, and he alone was carried here by the wind and waves. Zeus commands you to let this man go at once. It is decreed that he will not die here, far from his people, but will return to his home and country and see his friends again.
Calypso trembled with rage when she heard this. She cried out,
You gods should be ashamed of yourselves. You are always consumed by jealousy, unable to stand seeing a goddess fall for a mortal man and live openly with him. When rosy-fingered Dawn, Eos, fell in love with Orion, all you precious gods were furious, until Artemis went and killed him in Ortygia. And when the goddess Demeter fell in love with Iasion and lay with him in a thrice-plowed field, Zeus soon found out and struck Iasion dead with his thunderbolts. Now you're angry with me too, just because I have a man here. I found the poor creature sitting alone on a ship's keel. Zeus had struck his ship with lightning and sunk it in the middle of the ocean. All his crew drowned, and he himself was driven by wind and waves onto my island. I grew fond of him and cherished him. I had hoped to make him immortal, so he would never grow old. But I cannot defy Zeus or bring his plans to nothing. So, if he insists, I will send the man back across the seas. However, I cannot send him myself, for I have neither ships nor men to take him. Nevertheless, I will gladly give him honest advice that will help him return safely to his homeland. Then send him away.
Hermes said,
Or Zeus will be angry with you and punish you.
With that, Hermes departed. Calypso, having heard Zeus's message, went to find Odysseus. She found him sitting on the beach, his eyes always full of tears, dying of sheer homesickness. He had grown weary of Calypso. Though he was forced to sleep with her in the cave at night, it was her will, not his. During the day, he spent his time on the rocks and seashore, weeping, crying out in despair, and always gazing at the sea. Calypso approached him and said,
My poor man, you don't have to waste your life here grieving and suffering any longer. I am going to send you away of my own free will. Go, cut some wood, and build yourself a sturdy raft. Make it large, with an upper deck, so it can carry you safely across the sea. I will put bread, wine, and water on board to keep you from starving. I will also give you clothes and send a fair wind to take you home. That is, if the gods in heaven wish it, for they know more about these things and can settle them better than I can.
Odysseus shuddered at her words. He replied,
Goddess, I sense there's something else behind all this. You can't truly mean to help me home by telling me to do such a terrible thing as put to sea on a raft. Not even a sturdy ship with a fair wind could attempt such a long voyage. I will not board a raft, no matter what you say or do, unless you first solemnly swear that you intend me no harm.
Calypso smiled at this and caressed him with her hand. She said,
You know a great deal, but you are quite wrong about this. Let the heavens above, the earth below, and the waters of the river Styx be my witnesses. This is the most solemn oath a blessed God can take, that I intend you no harm whatsoever. I am only advising you to do exactly what I would do if I were in your place. I am being completely straightforward with you. My heart is not made of iron, and I truly feel sorry for you.
After she spoke, Calypso quickly led the way, and Odysseus followed her steps. The goddess and the man walked on until they reached Calypso's cave, where Odysseus took the seat Hermes had just vacated. Calypso set meat and drink before him, the kind of food mortals eat. Her maids, however, brought ambrosia and nectar for Calypso herself, and they all enjoyed the delicious food laid before them. Once they had eaten and drunk their fill, Calypso began to speak.
Odysseus, noble son of Laertes, you truly wish to return to your homeland at once? Good luck to you, but if you only knew how much suffering awaits you before you reach your country, you would stay here and live with me, letting me make you immortal. No matter how much you long to see your wife, whom you think of day after day. Honestly, I flatter myself that I am no less tall or beautiful than she is. A mortal woman cannot truly compare in beauty to an immortal goddess.
Odysseus replied.
Goddess, please don't be angry with me about this. I am well aware that my wife, Penelope, is not as tall or beautiful as you. She is merely a mortal woman while you are an immortal. Nevertheless, I long to return home, and I can think of nothing else. If some god wrecks me while I am at sea, I will endure it and do my best. I have already suffered countless hardships on both land and sea, so I will accept this as part of them.
The sun set, and darkness fell. The two of them went into the inner part of the cave and settled down for the night. When rosy-fingered Dawn, child of morning, appeared, Odysseus put on his shirt and cloak. Calypso, the goddess, wore a light, delicate, and elegant silk dress. She had a beautiful golden girdle around her waist and a veil covering her head. Calypso immediately began to think about how she could help Odysseus prepare for his journey. She gave him a large, sturdy bronze axe that fit perfectly in his hands. It was sharpened on both sides and had a beautiful olive wood handle firmly attached. Calypso also handed him a sharp adze. Then, she led Odysseus to the farthest part of the island, where towering alder, poplar, and pine trees grew, reaching for the sky. These trees were very dry and well-seasoned, perfect for floating lightly on the water. After showing him where the best trees grew, Calypso returned home, leaving Odysseus to cut them. He quickly finished the task. He cut down 20 trees in all and smoothed them with the adze, squaring them perfectly like a master craftsman. Meanwhile, Calypso returned with some augers. Odysseus used them to bore holes and securely fastened the timbers together with bolts and rivets. He built the raft as broad as a skilled shipwright would make the hull of a large vessel. He fixed a deck on top of the framework, like ribs, and built a railing all around it. He also made a mast with a yardarm and a rudder to steer with. For protection against the waves, he fenced the raft all around with wicker hurdles. Then he loaded a quantity of wood onto it. Soon after, Calypso brought him some linen cloth for the sails. Odysseus crafted these excellently too, fastening them securely with ropes and sheets. Finally, with the help of levers, he pulled the raft into the water. In 4 days, he had completed all the work. On the 5th day, Calypso washed him, gave him clean clothes, and sent him off from the island. She gave him a goatskin full of dark wine and a larger one filled with water. She also provided a pouch full of provisions and plenty of good meat. Moreover, Calypso made a fair and warm wind blow for him. Odysseus gladly spread his sail before it, sitting at the rudder and skillfully steering the raft. He never closed his eyes. He kept them fixed on the Pleiades, on late-setting Boötes, and on the Great Bear. People also call the Great Bear the wagon. It circles in place, facing Orion, and never dips into the ocean's waters. Calypso had told him to keep this constellation to his left as he sailed. He sailed over the sea for 17 days. On the 18th day, the faint mountain peaks of the nearest Phaeacian coast appeared, rising like a shield on the horizon. But King Poseidon, returning from visiting the Ethiopians, spotted Odysseus from afar, from the mountains of the Solymi. Seeing him sailing on the sea made Poseidon furious. He shook his head and muttered to himself,
"By the gods! It seems the gods have changed their minds about Odysseus while I was away in Ethiopia. Now he's nearing the land of the Phaeacians, where it's fated for him to escape the disasters that have struck him. But he'll still face plenty of hardship before it's over."
Thereupon, Poseidon gathered the clouds and gripped his trident. He stirred the sea with his trident, unleashing the fury of every wind. Earth, sea, and sky vanished behind clouds, and it seemed as if night itself burst forth from the heavens. Winds from all 4 directions, east, south, north, and west, struck him at once, raising colossal waves. Odysseus was plunged into despair. He cried out in despair to himself,
Oh, what will become of me? Calypso was right when she warned me I'd face trouble at sea before reaching home. It's all coming true. Look how Zeus darkens the sky with clouds, and how the winds from every direction whip up monstrous waves. Now I'm surely doomed to die. How blessed, how truly blessed, were the Danaans who fell before Troy fighting for the sons of Atreus. I wish I had died on that day when the Trojans fiercely attacked me over Achilles' body. Then I would have had a proper burial, and the Achaeans would have honored my name. But now it seems I'm destined for the most miserable end.
As he spoke, a furious wave crashed over him. The raft reeled once more, and Odysseus was swept far out into the sea. He lost his grip on the rudder. The storm's power was so immense that the mast snapped in half, sending both the sail and yardarm tumbling into the sea. Odysseus was submerged for a long time. The closed Calypso had given him weighed him down, and it was all he could do to fight his way back to the surface. But at last, he got his head above water and spat out the salty seawater streaming down his face. In spite of all this, he didn't lose sight of his raft. He swam as fast as he could, grabbed hold of it, and climbed back on board to avoid drowning. The sea tossed the raft around like autumn winds swirling thistle seeds on a road. It was as if winds from all four directions were playing battledore and shuttlecock with the raft. When he was in this plight, Ino, daughter of Cadmus, also known as Leucothea, a goddess, saw him. She had once been a mortal woman, but was now a goddess of the sea. Seeing Odysseus's immense suffering, she felt pity for him. She rose from the waves like a seagull and settled on the raft.
My poor soul,
She said,
why is Poseidon so furiously angry with you? He's causing you much trouble, but for all his rage, he won't kill you. You seem sensible, so do as I tell you. Take off your clothes, let the raft drift with the wind, and swim to the Phaeacian coast, where better fortune awaits you. Here, take my veil and wrap it around your chest. It's enchanted, and you'll come to no harm as long as you wear it. As soon as you reach land, take it off, throw it as far as you can back into the sea, and then leave.
After saying this, she took off her veil and gave it to Odysseus. Then, like a seagull, she plunged back into the water and vanished beneath the dark blue waves. But Odysseus didn't know what to do. He wrestled with his thoughts, speaking to himself in despair.
Oh, this must be some god trying to trick me into ruin by telling me to abandon my raft. I won't do it, not yet. The land where she said I'd be free from all troubles still seems so far away. I know what I'll do. This will be best. No matter what, I'll cling to the raft as long as its timbers hold together. But if the sea smashes it to pieces, then I'll have no choice but to swim. I don't see how I can do any better than that.
While Odysseus was still wrestling with these thoughts, Poseidon sent a terrible, massive wave that seemed to rear up over his head before crashing down on the raft. The raft shattered into pieces, like dry chaff scattered by a whirlwind. Odysseus straddled a single plank, riding the waves as if on horseback. He then took off the clothes Calypso had given him, tied Ino's veil under his arms, and plunged into the sea, intending to swim to shore. King Poseidon watched him. He shook his head and muttered to himself,
Go on, swim your best until you reach those wealthy people. You won't be able to say I let you off too easily.
With these words, he whipped his horses and drove off to Aegae, where his palace stood. But Athena resolved to help Odysseus. She bound the paths of all the winds, except one, making them lie still. Then she stirred up a strong breeze from the north to calm the waters. This continued until Odysseus safely reached the land of the Phaeacians. He drifted for 2 nights and 2 days on the sea. Death stared him in the face amidst the rough waves. But when the 3rd day dawned, the wind died down, and a breathless calm settled. Carried by the swell, Odysseus eagerly looked ahead. He saw land quite close by. Just as children rejoice when their beloved father, long afflicted by illness, begins to recover with the gods' help, Odysseus was overwhelmed with gratitude to see land and trees again. He swam with all his strength, desperate to set foot on dry land once more. As he got close enough to hear the waves, he began to hear the surf crashing against the rocks like thunder. Huge waves still broke against the rocks with a tremendous roar. Everything was covered in spray. There were no harbors for ships, no shelter of any kind, only headlands, low-lying rocks, and mountain peaks. Odysseus's heart now began to sink. He spoke to himself in despair.
"O Zeus, I had given up all hope. Yet you let me swim so far and see land. But there's nowhere to land. The coast is rocky and battered by waves, with smooth rocks rising sheer from the sea. The water beneath them is deep, offering no foothold to climb out. I fear a giant wave will sweep me up as I try to leave the water, smashing me against the rocks. That would be a truly terrible landing. If I swim further, searching for a gentle beach or a harbor, a storm might drag me back out to sea against my will, or the heavens might send some monstrous creature from the deep to attack me. Amphitrite breeds many such beasts, and I know Poseidon is furious with me."
As he hesitated, a giant wave crashed over him, slamming him against the rocks with furious force. If Athena hadn't shown him what to do, he would have been smashed and torn to pieces. He clung to the rock with both hands, groaning in pain, until the wave receded. He was saved in that moment, but soon, the wave surged back and dragged him far out into the sea. Just as the suckers of an octopus are torn when someone pulls it from a rock, bringing stones with it, the rocks ripped the skin from his strong hands. Then the wave pulled him deep underwater. Poor Odysseus would surely have died here, despite his destiny, if Athena hadn't helped him keep his wits. He swam seaward again, beyond the reach of the crashing surf. At the same time, he kept scanning the shore for a haven or a headland that could break the waves at an angle. As he swam on, he eventually reached the mouth of a river. He thought this would be the best place, as there were no rocks, and it offered shelter from the wind. He felt a current and prayed silently, saying,
"O king, whoever you may be, hear me. Save me from the anger of the sea god Poseidon. I approach you with fervent prayer. Anyone who has lost their way always has a right to appeal even to the gods. Therefore, in my distress, I surrender myself to your stream and cling to the knees of your river spirit. Have mercy on me, king, for I declare myself your suppliant."
The river god stilled his stream and calmed the waves, making everything peaceful before Odysseus. He guided Odysseus safely into the river mouth. Here, at last, Odysseus's knees and strong hands gave out. The sea had completely broken him. His body was swollen, and seawater streamed from his mouth and nostrils like a river. He couldn't breathe or speak, collapsing in a swoon from sheer exhaustion. Presently, when he caught his breath and came to his senses, he took off the scarf Ino had given him and threw it back into the river's salty current. Ino received it into her hands from the wave that carried it to her. Odysseus then left the river, laid down among the rushes, and kissed the bountiful earth.
"Alas,"
he said to himself, disheartened,
"what will become of me, and how will all this end? If I stay here on the riverbed through the long night, I'm so exhausted that the bitter cold and damp will surely kill me, for a keen wind will blow from the river at sunrise. On the other hand, if I climb the hillside, find shelter in the woods, and sleep in a thicket, I might escape the cold and get a good night's rest. But then some savage beast might attack and devour me."
In the end, he decided it was best to go to the woods. He found a forest on high ground, not far from the water. There, he crawled beneath 2 olive trees that grew from a single root. One was a wild shoot, and the other had been grafted. No matter how fierce the wind, how strong the sun, or how heavy the rain, nothing could penetrate the shelter they formed, for they grew so densely intertwined. Odysseus crawled beneath them and began to make a bed. There was a thick pile of dead leaves, enough to cover 2 or 3 people even in harsh winter weather. He was delighted to see this, so he lay down and heaped the leaves all around him. Just as a solitary country dweller, living far from neighbors, hides a glowing ember in the ashes to avoid having to start a new fire elsewhere, Odysseus covered himself with leaves. Then Athena poured sweet sleep over his eyes, closing his eyelids and making him forget all his sorrows. Book 6. The Meeting Between Nausicaa and Odysseus. Odysseus was deep in sleep, exhausted by his journey and weariness. Meanwhile, Athena headed for the land and city of the Phaeacians. The Phaeacians once lived in the beautiful city of Hypereiae, near the lawless Cyclopes. The Cyclopes were stronger and constantly raided them. So, their king, Nausithous, moved his people far away to Scheria, settling them far from all other nations. He built walls around the city, constructed houses and temples, and divided the land among his people. But King Nausithous had passed away and gone to the underworld. Now, King Alcinous, blessed with divine wisdom, ruled the land. Athena hurried to King Alcinous's house to help Odysseus return home. Athena went straight to a beautifully decorated bedroom. There, Princess Nausicaa, King Alcinous's daughter, slept, as lovely as a goddess. Two pretty maidservants slept nearby, one on each side of the well-made folding doors. Athena transformed herself into the daughter of the famous sea captain Dymas. This girl was Nausicaa's closest friend and her exact age. Athena drifted to the girl's bedside like a whisper of wind, hovered over her head, and spoke.
Nausicaa, how can your mother let you be so lazy? Your clothes are all scattered about. And you're going to be married very soon. You need to dress well yourself, and also get nice clothes for your maidservants. That's how you'll earn a good reputation and make your parents proud. So, let's make tomorrow laundry day and start early at dawn. I'll come and help you, so everything can be ready as quickly as possible. All the finest young men in your land are courting you, so you won't be a maiden much longer. Ask your father to prepare a wagon and mules for us at daybreak. We'll load up the rugs, robes, and sashes for washing. You can ride too, which will be much more pleasant than walking, because the washing place is quite a distance from town.
After saying this, Athena departed for Olympus. Olympus, they say, is the eternal home of the gods. No harsh winds blow there, and neither rain nor snow ever falls. Instead, it is filled with everlasting sunshine and a brilliant, peaceful light, where the blessed gods shine forever. The goddess left for this place after giving the girl her instructions. Soon, morning arrived and woke Nausicaa. She began to ponder her dream. She went to the other side of the house to tell her parents all about it. She found them in their room. Her mother was by the fireplace, spinning purple yarn with her maidservants. Nausicaa caught her father just as he was leaving to attend a town council meeting, called by the Phaeacian elders. She stopped him and said,
Papa dear, could you let me have a big, sturdy wagon? I want to take all our dirty clothes to the river and wash them. You're the most important man in this land, so it's only right that you wear a clean shirt when you attend council meetings. Plus, you have 5 sons at home. 2 are married, and the other 3 are handsome bachelors. You know they always want clean clothes when they go to a dance. I've been thinking about all this.
She didn't say a word about her own wedding. She was too shy. But her father already knew. King Alcinous said,
My dear, you shall have the mules and anything else you wish for. Go on now. The men will prepare a strong, good wagon for you, one that can hold all your clothes.
With that, he gave orders to his servants. The servants brought out the wagon, harnessed the mules, and hitched them up. Meanwhile, the girl brought the clothes from the linen room and loaded them onto the wagon. Her mother prepared a basket filled with all sorts of delicious provisions and a goatskin full of wine. The girl then climbed into the wagon, and her mother handed her a golden flask of oil for her and her maidservants to anoint themselves with. She took the whip and reins and urged the mules forward. The mules set off, their hooves clattering loudly on the road. They pulled tirelessly, carrying Nausicaa, her laundry, and all the maidservants who accompanied her. When they reached the water, they headed for the washing pools. There, pure water always flowed in abundance, enough to clean any amount of dirty laundry. They unharnessed the mules and let them graze on the sweet, fresh grass growing by the water's edge. They took the clothes from the wagon, put them in the water, and competed to tread them in the pools, stomping out the dirt. After washing the clothes thoroughly, they spread them out by the sea, on a high shingle beach built up by the waves. Then they washed themselves and anointed their bodies with olive oil. After eating their dinner by the stream, they waited for the sun to dry the clothes completely. Once dinner was done, they took off the veils covering their heads and began to play ball. Nausicaa sang for them. Imagine the huntress Artemis going out to the mountains of Taygetus or Erymanthus to hunt wild boars or deer. The wood nymphs, daughters of Aegis-bearing Zeus, play joyfully alongside her. Yet, the goddess Leto feels immense pride seeing her daughter Artemis stand a head taller than the others, shining as the most beautiful among a host of beauties. Nausicaa shone just like that among her maidservants. It was time for them to head home, and they were folding the clothes and loading them into the wagon. Athena began to think of a way for Odysseus to wake up and meet the beautiful girl who would guide him to the city of the Phaeacians. So, Nausicaa threw a ball to one of her maidservants. But the ball missed the maid and fell into the deep water. Everyone shouted, and the noise woke Odysseus. He sat up from his bed of leaves, wondering what was happening.
Oh no!
He muttered to himself.
What kind of people have I stumbled upon? Are they cruel, savage barbarians? Or do they welcome strangers with kindness? I hear young women's voices, like the nymphs who dance on mountain peaks, by river springs, or in green meadows. At least I'm clearly among people. Let me try to get a look at them.
With these thoughts, he crawled out from under the bush. He broke off a leafy branch to cover his nakedness. He looked like a lion from the wilderness, a lion that roams, exulting in its strength, ignoring wind and rain. When a hungry lion hunts for cattle, sheep, or deer, its eyes blaze. It will even break into a well-fenced farm to catch a sheep. That's how Odysseus appeared to the young women as he approached them, completely naked and desperate. He was in dire need. Seeing him so unkempt and crusted with salt water, the other maidservants scattered, running along the sandy spits that jutted into the sea. But Nausicaa, daughter of Alcinous, stood firm. Athena had filled her heart with courage and banished all fear. She stood directly in front of Odysseus. Odysseus hesitated, wondering whether to approach her, fall at her feet, and embrace her knees as a suppliant, or to stay where he was and beg her for clothes and directions to the town. In the end, he decided it was best to plead from a distance. He worried the girl might be offended if he came too close to clasp her knees. So, he spoke to her with sweet, persuasive words.
Oh, princess,
He began.
I beg for your help, but tell me, are you a goddess or a mortal woman? If you are a goddess dwelling in the heavens, I can only guess you are Artemis, daughter of Zeus, for your face and form resemble no one else's. If, on the other hand, you are a mortal living on earth, then your father and mother are thrice blessed. Thrice blessed, too, are your brothers and sisters. How proud and delighted they must feel to see such a beautiful child as you going out to a dance. But most blessed of all will be the man who offers the richest wedding gifts and takes you to his home. I have never seen anyone, man or woman, as beautiful as you. I am utterly lost in admiration as I look at you. I can only compare you to a young palm tree I saw on the island of Delos, growing near Apollo's altar. I was there myself with many of my men, during that journey which began all my troubles. I had never seen such a young plant sprout from the earth, and I admired and marveled at it then, just as I admire and marvel at you now. I dare not clasp your knees, but I am in great distress. Yesterday was the 20th day I had been tossed about on the sea. The winds and waves carried me all the way from Ogygia Island to this place. Now fate seems to have thrown me onto this coast, only for me to endure even more suffering. I don't believe my troubles are over yet. It seems the heavens still have much misfortune in store for me. So now, O princess, please have pity on me. You are the first person I've met in this land, and I know no one else here. Show me the way to your city, and please give me something to wear, even if it's just what you used to wrap your clothes in. May the heavens grant you all your heart's desires. A good husband, a home, and a happy, peaceful family. For there is nothing better in this world than for a husband and wife to live in harmony in their home. It confuses their enemies, gladdens the hearts of their friends, and they themselves know that happiness better than anyone.
Nausicaa replied.
Stranger, you seem to be a sensible and kind-hearted person. Luck is unpredictable. Zeus grants prosperity to both rich and poor as he chooses, so you must accept what he has sent you and make the best of it. Now that you have come to our country, you will not lack for clothes or anything else a foreigner in distress might reasonably expect. I will show you the way to the city, and I will tell you the name of our people. We are called Phaeacians, and I am the daughter of Alcinous, who holds all the power in this land.
Then she called to her maidservants.
Girls, stop right there. Can't you see a man without running away? Do you think he's a robber or a murderer? Neither he nor anyone else can come here to harm us Phaeacians. We are beloved by the gods, living apart on a land's end that juts into the roaring sea, and we have no dealings with other people. This is just a poor man who has lost his way. We must be kind to him. Strangers and foreigners in distress are under Zeus's protection. They will be grateful for whatever they receive. So, girls, give this poor fellow something to eat and drink, and wash him in the stream in a place sheltered from the wind.
At her words, the maidservants stopped running and gathered together. As Nausicaa had instructed, they led Odysseus to a sheltered spot and brought him a shirt and a cloak. They also gave him a small golden flask of oil and told him to go wash in the stream. But Odysseus said,
Young women, please step aside for a moment. I need to wash the brine from my shoulders and anoint myself with oil. It's been far too long since my skin has felt a drop of oil. Cannot wash while you all stand there. I am ashamed to undress in front of so many beautiful young women.
The maidservants stepped aside and went to tell Nausicaa. Meanwhile, Odysseus washed himself in the stream, scrubbing the brine from his back and broad shoulders. After he had thoroughly washed himself and removed all the salt from his hair, he anointed himself with oil and put on the clothes the girl had given him. Athena then made him appear taller and stronger than before. She also made the hair on his head grow thick and flow down in curls like hyacinth blossoms. Just as a skilled craftsman, trained in all arts by Hephaestus and Athena, gilds a silver plate to make it beautiful, Athena glorified his head and shoulders with a radiant glow. He then went and sat a little way off on the beach. He looked quite young and handsome. The girl gazed at him with admiration. Then she spoke to her maidservants.
Girls, quiet down for a moment. I have something to say.
Nausicaa announced.
I believe the gods in heaven have sent this man to us Phaeacians. When I first saw him, he looked ordinary, but now his appearance is as magnificent as the gods themselves. If he were to stay here and not leave, I'd wish my future husband would be just like him. Anyway, give him something to eat and drink.
The maids did as Nausicaa asked, setting food before Odysseus. He ate and drank ravenously, for it had been a long time since he'd had a proper meal. Meanwhile, Nausicaa turned her attention to other tasks. She folded the laundry, placed it in the wagon, and yoked the mules. Then, taking her seat, she called out to Odysseus.
Stranger.
Nausicaa said,
It's time to get up and return to town. I'll introduce you to my excellent father's house, where I can assure you, you'll meet all the most important people among the Phaeacians. But you must do exactly as I tell you. I trust you'll follow my advice, as you seem sensible. As long as we're passing through fields and farmlands, follow closely behind the wagon with my maids. I'll lead the way. Soon, however, we'll reach the town. It's surrounded by a high wall, with good harbors on either side, each with a narrow entrance. Ships will be docked along the roadside, because every Phaeacian has a spot for their own vessel. In the middle of town, you'll see the marketplace with a temple of Poseidon. It's paved with large stones set into the ground. Here, people trade all sorts of ship's gear, like ropes and sails, and it's also where oars are made. The Phaeacians aren't a nation of archers, they know nothing about bows and arrows. Instead, they are seafaring people, proud of their masts, oars, and ships, with which they travel far across the sea. I'm afraid of the gossip and rumors that might start about me later on. The people here are very ill-natured, and some low fellow, if he saw us, might say, "Who is this handsome stranger going around with Nausicaa? Where did she find him? I suppose she's going to marry him. Perhaps he's a vagabond sailor she picked up from some foreign ship, since we have no neighbors. Or maybe some god has finally come down from heaven in answer to her prayers, and she's going to live with him for the rest of her life. It would be better if she went off and found a husband somewhere else, because she won't even look at one of the many excellent young Phaeacians who are in love with her. They'll say disparaging things about me like that. And I couldn't complain, because I'd be shocked myself to see any other girl doing the same. It's not right to go around with a man in front of everyone, while her parents are still alive and without being married publicly. So, if you want my father to give you an escort and help you get home, do exactly as I tell you. You'll see a beautiful grove of poplars by the roadside, dedicated to Athena. It has a well and a meadow all around it. My father has a field of rich garden ground there, about as far from the town as a man's voice will carry. Sit down there and wait for a while until the rest of us can get into town and reach my father's house. Then, when you think we must have arrived, come into town and ask the way to the house of my father, King Alcinous. You'll have no trouble finding it, any child will point it out to you, for no one else in the whole town has a house as grand as his. Once you pass the gates and go through the outer court, cross the inner court directly to my mother. You'll find her sitting by the fire, spinning her purple wool by the firelight. It's a beautiful sight to see her leaning back against one of the main pillars, with all her maids lined up behind her. Close to her seat is my father's, where he sits and drinks like an immortal god. Don't mind him, but go up to my mother and grasp her knees if you want to get home quickly. If you can win her over, you can hope to see your own country again, no matter how far away it may be.
With that, Nausicaa lashed the mules with her whip, and they left the river. The mules pulled the wagon well, their hooves clattering cheerfully on the road. She used her whip with judgment, careful not to go too fast for Odysseus and the maids who were following on foot behind the wagon. As the sun was setting, they arrived at the sacred grove of Athena. There, Odysseus sat down and prayed to the mighty daughter of Zeus.
Hear me,
Odysseus cried.
daughter of aegis-bearing Zeus, tireless one. Hear me now. You paid no heed to my prayers when Poseidon was destroying me. Therefore, have pity on me now, and grant that I may find friends and be hospitably received by the Phaeacians.
As Odysseus prayed, Athena heard his plea. However, she did not show herself to him openly. She was still afraid of her uncle Poseidon, who remained furious in his efforts to prevent Odysseus from returning home.